Right, so simulating your character up to now, the main option that we have is using Simulation Craft. Downside to Simulation Craft is it's very involved, it's very fiddly for a lot of things. It takes a certain amount of practice to get used to it. But we've got a new thing now called Raidbots. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have a look at this, review it, see what it can do for you and me. And then at the end of it, I'm going to give my overall pros and cons to using Raidbots over, say, Simulation Craft. Okay, so here we are on the Raidbots main page. Few things of note here. There's a link there. I'm not logged in or anything like that at the moment. So there's a link there to advise you to support them on Patreon. If you do that, it suggests that skip the line, presumably shorter queues. Also, get rid of the ads. And, of course, it's helping them look after it. So, options that we've got here, let's have a look. So let's look at stat weights first of all. This is, of course, something we could very easily get off Simulation Craft as well, but this is potentially a bit more user-friendly, should we say. So, I'm going to get rid of that. I was playing with this a second ago. I'm going to copy and paste the data that I've got from the SimC add-on, which is the easiest way to do it. You can get it from the Armory as well. I'd strongly suggest doing that because you can update it without having to log on and off all the time. Options here, 10,000 iterations. By standard, it tends to put it on patchwork, but, you know, how many bosses are patchwork for you? If if you're on a boss and even if there's ads, you're always just single targeting, okay, fine, put it on patchwork. But I'm going to put it on Beast Lord. Fight length, 10 minutes there, sort of, for like Gul'dan. I mean, is Beast Lord necessarily the best one for Gul'dan? Maybe we go with a light movement instead. Because there are ads at certain points, but not a huge number. Everything else looks okay. So we're just going to generate stat weights. So we're in a queue at the moment there. If you're a patron, as it suggests. I don't know what the minimum level is. I'll look that up later as to what you get. It sort of suggests there's different levels here. At the first level, no ads. Second level, skipping the line. Third level, sorry, higher time limit. Next one is just general help. I suppose as well, as a result of the fact that there's this queue, if you're not a patron, you would also be advised to do this sort of thing off peak time. So if it's like peak times, there's a lot of people going to like to be using this website. It may well be much longer queues. While I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to have a look at their Patreon. So let's have a look. So for as little as $1, you can get rid of the ads. $3, skip the line. Let's go for that. So here we have the results of the stat weights now. So it's given me a rough idea for the amount of DPS I should be doing, and the actual stat weights. Now, of course, these can be used when you just talk about gear with only stats on them. There's no special effects, no set bonuses. Then you can just literally plug these into an add-on such as Pawn to be able to tell whether one piece of gear is an upgrade over another. And again, in my add-on section, I've got a guide showing you how to use Pawn to do that as well. In fact, you've actually got a Pawn string there if you wanted. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and have a look at some of the other features. And on this one, you can see I've just become a patron. Just test it out. It's only like $3 a month, no problem. So let's have a look at some of the other options. So we've had a look at stat weights now. So let's have a look at Top Gear. No, not with Jeremy Clarkson or even Matt LeBlanc. Okay. So, is this the gear I'm currently wearing? Yes, this is the gear I'm currently wearing. It's kept those same options. What am I to do here? At least 2 gear sets. Do I select other pieces of gear? I guess I do. Right, okay then. Let's have a look at another high item level. We've got a socket on it. Let's see if it's worth using that at all. There's a haste versatility one. I know I can't wear that. Let's say Horn of Valor, maybe Draft of Souls. Oh, Hunger of the Pack. Alright, let's try with those. Over iterations limit. Remove some items. Oh, I've gone too mad. Okay. Well, was it? This is very odd. Well, I tell you. Okay, let's just say it wants to compare between two. This is now a very strange set of events that we're looking at here, though, because I don't really see the point if you can't compare. I haven't put loads of slots on, have I? This is just. I mean, this wouldn't make sense because you have 2 ring and trinket slots, so surely you should be selecting 4 of each of these at least. It's still over the limit. Oh, I just want to try it out. Let's just get rid of these, and that as well. So we've got no more than 2 for each item, and obviously there's no point in that one because they're just novelty items. Okay, so it's only allowing a maximum of 2 for each one. That sounds strange when you're talking about rings and trinkets, for which you wear 2. So really, the limit for that one should be 4. And also not to be able to look at like 3 of other items. I know it increases the number of iterations you're potentially using. I have got a thought about that. I'm going to try something else after this is finished. So we can see here there's no queue. Because now I'm at the patron level where there is no queue, and but there is some processing time, of course. Right, let's have a look. Job status failed. Common failure reasons. So it's only going to take a certain amount of time and then give up on it. So common failure reasons. Simulations that take too long are killed. Try lowering your iterations, comparing fewer items. We can't compare fewer items when you're actually using the option to compare items or use a simpler fight type. Try switching between stable and nightly versions of SimC in the advanced options. If a new patch has just landed, new items may not work in stable. Nightly can also have bugs as it often changes. Right, so let's have a look then. Has it still kept my options there? No, it hasn't. Okay. Well, we'll persist. We'll give it a crack. Leave it on there. So fewer iterations. Now, this is a bit of a concern because anything less than 10,000 I'm a bit dubious of. We only have the option of 5,000. Instead of Gul'dan, then let's just do it for a standard mythic farm type boss where it probably only lasts about 4 minutes or something. Let's go for about 4 minutes. Light movement, yeah, okay. We'll leave it at that. Oh, I'm in a queue now. Apparently there's not supposed to be any... Alright, at least that was quick. Well, it's maybe takes some time to clock that I'm a patron and bunks me ahead. Okay, seems to be done. Generating report. So, let's have a look. This report used a low setting for iterations. Results may be shaky. Yes, this is exactly the issue. Using fewer iterations means that the results are a bit dodgy. I shall explain that in my review. But I had no real option there. So, is this of any use to us at all? This is what it reckons is the top gear. See, I can't really tell whether this is what it thinks is the top gear set. I'm hoping it is, or whether it's just what I'm wearing, because it is also what I am wearing. But then again, of course, what I am wearing is also what, because I use simulation craft regularly. So I'm assuming that the only way I could test it, I suppose, is to put myself in some really stupid gear and see if it comes up with the same thing. So we're going to do that. So I'm going to go back to that, go back to Top Gear, and I'm going to change that. I've swapped a few pieces around. So what you can see is, hopefully I'll try and point it out to you. I've got rid of my legendary cloak and put another one on. So I'm going to select, say, consider that legendary cloak. I put on some legendary braces that don't really increase my DPS much unless I'm a bit suicidal. So I'll also give it the option of the braces that I do wear usually. The belt, again, I've swapped the belt. So again, give it the legendary belt to choose. We'll still give it options for the other ones as well. What other options should we pick here? Let's just pick that for the hell of it. I'll put on the legendary boots as well. So we'll give it that choice. So there's no more than 2 in each, but there are 2 of each. So let's see what it does now. Exactly the same options there. Find Top Gear. So we should bypass that queue quickly. So let's have a look. Yeah, so it is telling you out of the options you gave it which ones you should be wearing. So it has swapped those items back around. Also quite encouraging the fact that it actually agrees with me because I based my stuff from Simulation Craft. And it has said in here it gets its stuff from Simulation Craft as well. So, okay, it allows you for each slot to compare 2 items. I would say that that is a bit of a problem for the ring and the trinket, for which there are 2 items equipped at any one time. So that is a bit of a flaw there, if you ask me. Gear compare. So again, this is what I had in that dodgy gear set. So what could we change here? So let's have a look. So Chain of Thrain was something we wanted to put in there. And another item. Of course, we're going to have an enchant on it. 200 strength. This is quite handy as well, just for general pieces of gear. I'm just going to check what the name, because I'd have to get rid of those, wouldn't I? So the boots I have are rock-bound Sabatons. And I have those at 915 item level, but with no socket. Just have a look. Compare items. That was really quick. I might actually be able to do that. So what it's showing me is that between the gear set that I used when I pasted into SimC and the gear set that I should actually have, not only is this new gear set higher DPS, which is what I expected. You can also see by how much. Now, this is going to be really crucial if you are going to use this to compare different pieces of gear that you've got. If a piece of gear set looks like, oh, it's higher damage, but it's higher damage by a really small amount, doesn't necessarily matter. But for this one, it's showing that it's clearly higher. Now, I'm going to... Now, I'd quite like to have a look what else it can do. Our relic compare. Now this potentially could be really useful. Choose relics to compare. But if I were to have a look at some relics on offer. So let's have a look. That's the one I actually have and want. Mythic. So here's one. So let's say I were to get a glistening meteorite shard at a reasonably high item level. Glistening meteorite shard. And let's say I were to get one at, say, 910 item level, which I think would just be a Warforged one. I don't know. Let's just click on this. I don't know what I'm going to see here. So what it would actually be telling me is that glistening meteorite shard, if I were to replace my lowest item level holy relic, then it would actually be a DPS increase. But again, what I said before, it's a very minor DPS increase. You'd sort of have to decide to yourself, is it actually worth it? But that call would be on you. But it does allow you to compare the DPS of the two relics. Now, I will just caution on this one, because remember, it is based on some of this. I'm going to actually just increase the iterations, because now that I'm... And I might even change that to Beast Lord again. Let's stick it at 4 minutes, we're fine. So let's just try that again. Again, say 910. I have a 900 Holy Relic with my Bis trait on it. So it's 10 item levels update. Let's have a look here. See how quickly it does it with 10,000 iterations. That's not bad. It's not bad. It's only really comparing one thing with another. So it would be a lot quicker, you'd expect. Again, obviously I've changed the type of fight as well, so the numbers are very different. But still, it's a very minor update. So what you'd be looking at in this case is saying, is it worth taking it off someone else who wants it? No, absolutely not. Is it worth equipping if you had it in your bags anyway? You could say maybe. It's a very small upgrade, but it looks like an upgrade under those conditions. Then what you might want to do is to compare it under different circumstances. So maybe you do it for a Beast Lord fight. Maybe you do it for a patchwork fight. Maybe you do it for Hectic Adcleve for like Mythic Plus dungeons. Obviously, you can't be swapping relics in and out all the time like you can gear. So you do have to make sure that you've got relics slotted into your weapon that are going to suit you for the hardest content you want to do. That might mean you want to change the fight length as well, things like that. Okay, so the relic compare looks decent actually. Talent compare. So I know what talents I've got. So let's have a look. I'm doing this for Beast Lord again, aren't I? I am. So let's say, okay, I say, well, when the ads are about, Consecration is going to be really good, but the ads aren't about for very much. So let's say I say, you know, what's Consecration going to be like? And let's say I want to boost Zeal as well, because it's cleaviness. That doesn't really matter. Divine Hammer. That one doesn't really matter. That one doesn't really matter. And Crusade, obviously. So let's see how this goes. And it is indeed saying that if for a Beast Lord type fight where there's ads now and then, that would actually do me better. Interesting. So you've got a quick way as well of comparing talent sets for different situations. Now obviously this still depends on the type of fight you choose. So if I were to do... let's just look at a light movement one. And it tells you what these mean as well. Infrequent movement. Move 50 yards every 85 seconds. So if we put in those same talents that I put in before. There we go. It says the talents I've got are actually better for that because there'll be no ads in there. Although not loads better. That's interesting. Shows how close some of our talents are sometimes. Run a quick sim to get basic stats like DPS. Fine. So let's say you had a specific fight in mind. I'm going to go and get my sensible gear set back on actually. So let's have a look. Let's get rid of that. That's the stuff I normally wear. Chain of Thrain, cloak is everything else about this. So let's say I'm going to do it for this for Gul'dan. So Gul'dan, there are times when there's some cleave involved, but anyway. First of all, it's a bit. No, never mind. I actually forgot to do the Sim C as well. Anyway, there we go. There we go. Right. Now, for this one, let's say 10 minutes. Actually lasts a little over 10 minutes. This seems very fiddly. Right, now, what sort of fight? It's not quite... The first phase is very Beast Lord-like. I'm going to do it as a light movement fight, though. We're only running a quick sim, so we're just trying it out. So it reckons under those circumstances I would do about 806,500 damage, or DPS. So it's just getting you a number. It's the same sort of thing that WoW Progress is doing. Only WoW Progress, of course, does not do this many iterations. So this is a slightly more accurate one, you would say. But again, the accuracy is very much dependent upon how well you're modelling it to the fight you're actually doing. And I'll say, for some fights, you can't easily model it at all. In fact, you might have to break it into stages. You might have to say, for example, well, first phase of Gul'dan Mythic is very Beast Lord-like. So maybe I do Beast Lord for the first, for say 3 minutes worth. And then the next phase is much more sort of light movement. So maybe I use that for the second phase. Then the third phase again is a cross between light movement and Beast Lord, really, isn't it? So always caution, a bit of caution here. It can only, but that's the same as simulation craft. You can only base it around these ones. One of the good things about this is at least is basing its stuff off simulation craft. So there's a good chance of accuracy there. Obviously here you've got, you can use the nightly build. The nightly build is likely to be the most up to date, but it's also the one that's most prone to bugs. So sometimes there may be bugs, but if you get to a situation where it won't sim it properly with that, then you know you just switch to weekly. So I suppose nightly would be the one I would recommend in most situations as well. So we'll just do our quick sim on nightly. I don't think this will make much difference. There hasn't been a great deal of change to Retribution Paladins in terms of current gearing. So I would expect very, almost identical number there. And then the last one, which says advanced run almost any raw simulation craft script. That'd be, to be honest with you, I suppose it's just there for completeness. If you're able to do that sort of thing yourself, you would just use simulation craft because, you know, anyone that could do that, I guess, could use simulation craft anyway. So it's just whichever one you find more convenient. And simulation craft doesn't put queues in the way if you're not a patron to it. Okay, so in terms of my overall review of this, what I will say is definite advantage is it's effectively a more user-friendly form of simulation craft. The interface is much more user-friendly. It's a definite benefit for comparing, say, relics. I did a guide for using simulation craft to compare various things, including relics. Comparing relics with simulation craft, there's no getting away from it, is fiddly. This one is not. All you need to do is know the name of the relic you want to compare with what you already have, put whatever item level you want to put in for it, and it's as straightforward as that. So that is a definite thumbs up. A bit of a negative, in my view, is that if you aren't at least a $3 patron, and $3 isn't very much, $3 a month, this is how it works out, then it might not be a good tool for simming during raid runs, say. So let's say someone, you've got it all ready to run. I know some people do this, a small number of people do this. So an item drops at a particular item level and you're not sure if it's going to be an upgrade. You've got the thing all ready to go. You've got your character loaded in. You just say, can I just sim it? It's only going to take half a minute. So you put in the item at the right item level, compare it with what you're using in the same slot, run the sim and it'll tell you whether it's an upgrade or not. That sort of thing is not likely to go very well unless you're a $3 patron, because you're going to get hit with a queue, as we saw, and those queues I can imagine would only get worse during peak times. I did this at off-peak time. I did this at round about midday on a Monday in the UK. So America's still asleep. A lot of Europe is at work or doing something else as well. It's not peak time. It's not raid time for anywhere. Or a large population of the WoW. It's always raid time somewhere, isn't it? So Yeah, I can. If you're not going to be a $3 patron, I wouldn't consider this a quick use tool. I would consider it a tool that you can use when you've got a lot of time to spend. You have the option of getting it to email you when the thing's done if it's going to take a certain amount of time. Although, bizarrely, when we had a look at it, if it takes too long to process it, then we also know that it's going to kill it. That's another negative as well. It will only give you so much time to process it because it's been done through a website and not through something you download onto your own system. This is where Simulation Craft is a definite advantage. You download that program onto your computer. The processing takes as long as it takes. Because you're not running it through someone else's server, they don't really care about that. So that's another downside to it. So if the simulation is too complex to run, then it won't complete. Your option in that case is either to simplify it, but if you can't really simplify it, if you actually do want to do all the stuff you want to do, your only option is to reduce the number of iterations, as we saw there. Now, iterations, is quite important to understand this. What are iterations? Iterations are the number of times you're running that simulation, and you want to run it as many times as possible. And the reason for that is, there's nothing really mechanical about the way any class works. There are always things like random procs or crits and stuff like that that affect a lot the overall amount of output you're capable of achieving. But most of them follow a normal distribution, which means that if you do it enough times, it all sort of comes out in the wash, it all evens out. So that's what you're getting when you do something like that. You're getting what should be, on average, what you're getting. Of course, you may get way less or way more, especially if your class or spec is very RNG based. But you know that you still want to know what that average is, otherwise you'll get a misleading result. That being said, if what you're going to use this for mostly is comparing two items, let's say 2 talent sets or 2 relics, or just actually 2 equipable items, then that shouldn't be an issue. You should be able to do whatever options you like, because there's nothing especially complex about just comparing 2 items, so that should be fine for that. So all in all, what I would say about this is, if you find Simulation Craft awkward to use, and even when you've watched my guide on it, you still feel this is a bit too fiddly, I don't really want to do this. This is a much better system for that, because it is much more user-friendly. It's not more accurate than Simulation Craft. I mean, how could it be? It uses Simulation Craft, and it's worth bearing in mind that Simulation Craft is input by the top theory crafters in this game. You know, the people who really study the mathematical modelling of WoW characters are the people who use Simulation Craft and input the data for it. And of course, if this program were not taking their data from Simulation Craft, I would straight away dismiss it as being likely inaccurate, and that's what I would have explored. Because that was the main disadvantage with the Ask Mr. Robot Simulator. I was really pumped up for that when it was first announced, and you know, I was invited to test it out in the beta, and that was looking really good, but the problem was it was inaccurate. This one doesn't look inaccurate, and it shouldn't be, of course, because it's using the SimCraft stuff. The fact that there would be a queue for it if you're not a $3 patron means you can't realistically use it during a run to find out whether one piece of gear is an upgrade over another. The fact that it can kill a sim if it deems it too complex is an issue if you really want to do lots of pieces of gear at once. And it's also, when people were talking about this, they were billing it as if I came on this today, I know nothing about it other than what people have told me. And I was getting the impression it's just going to look in your bags and tell you what's the best gear set to use, which I was a little dubious about, especially with people telling me it's really quick, because those two things don't tie up. Comparing all the gear in your bags, especially my bags, with really quick, not happening and being accurate at the same time. And so it turned out to be. I'm actually happy with the accuracy of this program, but what it's not able to do is just compare all the stuff in your bags. You have to do it a bit at a time. So I hope that review was useful. I've put a link, obviously, to the program website in the description below. If you haven't seen it before, by all means, check it out, see what you think, and then get back to me with comments here as well. If you found it useful, don't forget to subscribe for further content, and also please share it with other people that you think might be interested. And until next time, I'll see you later.